All right, thank you everyone for being here. We are going to go ahead and call the Thursday, August 19th Board of Education meeting to order. And a roll call, please, Mrs. Haas.
Mr. Nickram?
Here.
Mr. Paul?
Here.
Mrs. Reynolds?
Here.
Mrs. Bukta?
Here.
Mr. Cheney?
Here. All right, the next thing we do each month is the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join me and we will do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Each month after we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we like to read the mission statement of the School District of Fort Atkinson, for that is the reason that we are here and why we do what we do. School District of Fort Atkinson is committed to delivering the quality opportunities and services each student needs to achieve his or her academic and personal potential. Moving on, we will move to highlights and recognitions and comments from the audience on agenda and non-agenda items. Just to let everyone know the procedures for public comments. Public comment shall be permitted as indicated by the order of business. Anyone having a legitimate interest in actions of the board may comment during the public portion of a meeting. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration. No participant may speak more than once in the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. The presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement. 2, request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. 3, request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person. 4, call for recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of a meeting as to warrant such action. So essentially, we're just reading this because we want to make sure that that's clear to the community in the audience and to each other. We haven't read this in a while, so I think it's important that we remind ourselves that we need to stick to these rules. So if you'd like to make a comment, please step forward to the podium. Just list your name and address, and again, adhere to the rules aforementioned. All right, seeing none, then we can go ahead and move towards the consent agenda.
Yes, Robert's Rules provides for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board in a single motion. Documentation concerning these items have been provided to all board members in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. They will then become part of the permanent record. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. This evening we have item A, minutes from July 15, 2021, regular board and closed session. Item B, personnel, appointment, resignation, retirement, and transfer requests. They are as follows. Rebecca Brown, 1.0 FTE early childhood teacher at Purdy Elementary. Casey Klein, 1.0 FTE math teacher at Fort Atkinson High School. Kayla Sidney, 1.0 FTE cross-categorical teacher at Fort Atkinson High School. Samantha Trace, 1.0 science and biology teacher at Fort Atkinson High School. And Michael Zolski, 1.0 FTE business education teacher at Fort Atkinson High School. And those are your appointments this evening. Be it also further resolved the resignation requests and the acceptance upon their liquidated damages for failure to perform in the amount of $1,000. Gage Granzow, 1.0 FTE middle school technology education teacher. Seth Kementer, 1.0 FTE high school science teacher. And Clayton Iverson, 1.0 FTE high school business education teacher. Then item C, gifts to the school districts. Those include a donation from an anonymous donor of $500 to the Fort Atkinson High School Theater Department, and a donation from Jeff Agnew of Trusses and Lumber for the High School Tech Ed Department. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education thank the anonymous donor as well as Jeff Agnew for their generous donations. And then this evening we have item D, the payment of district bills and the treasurer's report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abbott. Any board member have any of those items that we would like to pull out and discuss individually, or would like to pass the consent agenda?
I don't have any.
All right, seeing none, then we can entertain the motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Paul, is seconded by Mrs. Reynolds, and a roll call, please, Mrs. Haas.
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mrs. Bukta,
Yes.
Mr. Nickram,
Yes.
Mr. Cheney.
Yes, and that passes. All right, moving forward to payment of district bills, correct?
No.
I'm sorry.
We're now on the
Strategic plan update, very sorry.
Well, good evening again, board members, as well as our larger community. It is with incredible pride that I stand here this evening and unveil the finished product that is our new district strategic plan. As the board and community is aware, we've had a rather aggressive yet comprehensive process that we've engaged over the past several months. We've involved hundreds of stakeholders' opinions and thoughts and ideas, as well as our staff members and administrators as well, as we have worked to define the future of our school district and what it is that we think our One Fort larger community needs and deserves as we continue to grow our district into the future. I think we're all aware that we were in a place in our last strategic plan. It was built around 5 bold steps, and there were some specific areas to improve or enhance identified by the committee in that process. And then those specific groups heavily were connected, while some of the other areas perhaps not as much. And you'll recall, as we've talked about numerous times, that this then was retired last summer when we were together in anticipation of this evening's new strategic plan. And this is where we're going, and it's exactly what we talked about last summer when we met and launched our effort to create a new strategic plan. That the new plan, it be results-focused, that a new mission and vision statement, they drive and they guide our work. We define beliefs and guiding principles to ground our work, and everyone has a home in our plan. We are all truly together in our One Fort team. We also want to amplify our sense of distinction and enhance our sense of distinction throughout the community, region, and state. As the board and others are aware, we had multiple steps in this process. We started in February and we reported back to you last in June. We looked in these different areas of regrounding, reflection and reimagination, of definition, design, and then here we are this evening where we hope to embark on the work of the plan as it sets forth for us beginning this school year. You'll recall that we set forth guiding principles in a collection of areas, among them academic accountability, federal and state accountability, fiscal responsibility, physical and technical safety, community and stakeholder engagement, investment in physical and human capital. And then, of course, under each of those guiding principles are multiple other items which further enhance those different distinct areas as we consider them principles in how we conduct business in the school district. And then we defined district beliefs. In those areas, teaching and learning, social and emotional learning, community and lifelong learning, and leveraging resources for student success. We talked in June about a vision statement of why or where is it we're going, what is it that we might have as destination someday, and then our mission statement, the what and how, and that is what is it we're doing each and every day. We shared our vision being achieving distinction in all we do, encompassing everyone in all things that fall under the umbrella of the One Fort motto, as well as the school district of Fort Atkinson. And then our daily work, our mission, which would be read at the beginning of each staff meeting, and as we work with teachers and kids and staff throughout our work beginning this fall. Cultivate an inclusive, high-performing culture of growth and community. We also promised that we would come back with a concise number of goals that would be easily understandable by the board, but more importantly, perhaps even understandable by the community, that they would have a greater sense of what work and how is it aligned to these goals that the board has put forward as priorities. And I have 3 different areas this evening. The first is high performance, then an inclusive culture of growth, and then community distinction. So the first, all schools, as well as the district, will achieve a State of Wisconsin accountability rating of significantly exceeds expectations no later than the 2025-2026 report card with evidence of annual growth. So as I've shared this with staff, and as we have done an awful lot of work with staff throughout the summer, and as we've worked through this administratively through data retreats and meetings and all sorts of different means to get ready for launching our school year, I'll tell you that this goal fits the definition of rigor. This goal is a stretch for us. It's definitely a 5-year goal, but it definitely fits the bill when it comes to why are we doing what we're doing? It's toward greater success for all of our learners. One of the things that I really want to be clear about with this particular goal area is that this is not about a single test score. Without doing a lesson on the state school report card, that encompasses many different areas. It does include achievement or test scores to some extent, but it also accounts for individual student growth. It actually creates metrics for us so that we can see are all 2,600 plus of our students showing growth in their learning. It talks with us about attendance. It talks with us about engagement. There are a number of different metrics that are involved in that state report card, and I think we all know that is the #1 tool that districts are compared to one another with. And also, as we look at continuing to grow our district, potential newcomers to Fort Atkinson would use as they consider various different school districts that they may have ability to join. The board is also aware that we set this goal and we set it in a lofty manner, knowing that we have a lot of work to do to make that happen. So as we've been working to create the action plans under this goal, we've been very clear. And we'll be very clear with staff when I launch this plan at our convocation next Thursday that we're not spending any time worrying about where we are right now. That's in the past. This plan moves us to the future. Our work is to not have this data set that we're looking at now be in place in the future. This is about incremental, deliberate, and very carefully orchestrated growth over a long period of time. This puts all 6 of our school buildings as well as the district in the same metric, in the same path of looking for success. And then we look at an inclusive culture of growth. Our learning community will exemplify an inclusive culture of growth responsive to our learner and community needs. This is where everyone fits into the work that we do with students and our community, an inclusive culture of growth. And then community distinction. The district will be the preferred educational option in the region, as evidenced by annual growth in the pupil count and open enrollment. So I think we've been very transparent that we don't have as many kids as we would like. In part, we have fewer young families with young children in our community as a whole, but we also have some increased competition. We have families that are leaving to go to other educational options. We have some families that found virtual options really worked for them last year, and they're looking at additional virtual options elsewhere throughout their learning moving forward. We have fewer kids coming to us via open enrollment than we've had in the past. All of those things we can analyze, but we also own. The job for us is to turn that around and to make sure that through our quality programming and our excellent staff and our excellent teaching and learning, that we truly become the school district that no one can turn away from. And that's our community distinction goal. So again, what we're asking the board to do this evening is to approve the plan that we've been talking about over the past several months. And in doing so, then, you will trigger the administrative team and our staff as we work into the new school year to create all of the work that would go under those 3 main goal areas. So I do have a set of resolutions there for you to consider, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And then I do have a next part of my presentation, which will talk about the fact that we haven't waited for your approval. We've actually spent the last 3+ months getting started on the important work that we've been talking about this evening. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or any reactions you might have to what I presented thus far. And if so inclined, I do have some resolutions that you might consider as well.
You may not know this, but have we ever seen significantly exceeds at all of our schools before?
No. I'll tell you, so when we were working through the metrics of that, because I mean, there's obviously a mathematical side of that goal, one of the things that we're excited about, and this would be like a future conversation we could have, this isn't like the intro piece, but there's actually a way for us to have all of the schools, the elementaries, the middle school, and the high school, working toward the same actual metrics, the actual number. So as we are working, and we'll be able to see throughout the course of the year, are we seeing improvement? Are there adjustments we need to make to see greater improvement? Are there some things we could do differently because we're not seeing improvement? But the idea with that goal is that it becomes very incremental, and it's not something that we take a look at 12 months later after the school year is in the rearview mirror. It becomes much more just in time and much more what is that we're seeing at all three of the grade levels. So we've definitely had some buildings that have significantly exceeded in the past. We've had some that have not seen that rating in the past, but we've never had an occasion where the district and all 6 of the schools were significantly exceeding. It would have been easier for us to say exceeding, if I'm being honest, but that's sort of like encouraging your kid to get a C too,
Yeah.
right? So we need to shoot big here. I think the community knows it, they deserve it, and they want it. And we're going to be really transparent about what we're seeing with results. And if we're not seeing the results we want, we'll be really transparent about what we're adjusting to start nurturing the results it is that we want to see.
When I first saw this just recently, my first thought was, whoa, it's pretty aggressive here. But I'm happy, as you said, that we're starting today, right? Or a couple weeks ago. I'm sure
3 months ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, all this planning started sometime earlier, but I'm happy that we're today is this kind of a start, and let's get going. Whatever's happened in the past is done. I'm excited that is this is brand new, and you guys have spent a tremendous amount of time on this. So to come out and say that, hey, 2025-26 school year significantly exceeds expectations. I'm sure there's a number of people that sit back and go, oh, how are we going to do that? But things feel different. Things will be different. And I think we have all the pieces in place to make these things happen. It's just, it's not easy, and we got some time to do it here. So I appreciate you being so generous, if you will, with your significantly exceeds expectations. I'm excited to see where this happens in the next 5 years.
I did see blood drain from some people.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
as we've talked
I
about.
would imagine.
I mean, it's a challenge, but it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like we've really had a large number of teacher groups together over the course of the summer, doing some really exciting and rewarding work toward these goals. But even then, we've had comments like, "Man, like that's big,"
Yeah.
but we know what it is that we're working toward,
Yeah.
and we know that it's the same goal for everyone, and we know that it's a district effort to work through not just that goal area, but the others as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we'll see here, is that it will be clearer and easier for people to understand and see what it is that we're working on and feel part of that work.
I would like to think maybe in my fantasies that the people whose blood drained from their bodies when they saw this know that like this board has at least shown, since I think the last few iterations, it's shown that we support the administration and the staff, and we understand that things don't happen overnight, and there's growing pains, and there's going to be some tough times and things, but the support of this board, I think is has shown itself that we're behind this this community, whether it be the educational community or the community at large. But being able to enact a strategic plan that I think reflects the wants, like you said, the wants and needs of the people and the deserveds of the people in this community. I think it's exciting to be part of that, and I'd like to. This is what I'd like to focus on for the rest of the year.
A couple of responses to that. One is, and I mean this very, very candidly, there is no way that we would be coming forward with the aggressive goals and this level of transparency and results-driven strategic planning did we not feel safe with the board and knowing that the board has a history of supporting what it is that we believe we need in order to improve teaching and learning in the school district. And we know that's going to be the case in this plan. So your work and your past and your current spirit in the work that you share was part of how it is that we felt that we could bring things to you this evening. The other thing that I'd like to just say is that we've worked really hard to compartmentalize our work. We've chosen, and I think perhaps differently than some other districts, but we've really chosen to keep working forward on the important work of teaching and learning and improving what it is we do with kids every single day, and keeping the pandemic obviously in our minds, obviously intensely being worked on as well, but we've refused to be consumed by that and to let it prevent us from doing the truly important work, and that's improving teaching and learning for kids.
Right on. I mean, I think that's like, that's what we, all schools around should be doing. We should be focusing on that. I mean, that's why we're here. That's what our mission states. So I'm, again, excited to be part of it. Anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns for Dr. Abbott on the strategic plan?
No, I think that the exceeds expectations in my profession. I always say that your students and basically humans, all of us, and we reach the expectations that are given to us. And so if we're going to challenge ourselves, I think that's the only way to go beyond our, box. And so sadly, my son's a senior who won't be able to, but I do have other family who's going to be able to reap these benefits and these rewards. And I do appreciate the challenge and the collaboration from your administration and staff in order to not only just challenge themselves, but as well as their students, because they can definitely reach this because that's what is expected of them.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Good point.
I think it's great. I mean, you can say it all these different ways, but I think it's great. You guys put a lot of work. You can tell that every part of it has a very specific meaning to it, but it's something that, everybody can see and understand, and I'm excited.
Great.
All right. Is there anyone else that has anything else to say? Anything else? Complaints, concerns, comments, quips? Seeing none, then we can go ahead and entertain the motion. It's a long one, so it can be read as written.
Actually, if I could ask, would you
No.
mind if
Yeah,
we
let's
read
read it
this one
out.
out loud?
We can,
Yeah.
no, that's
Yeah,
no. Absolutely.
I know that you believe that this is the most important work that we do as well, and I just think that this truly is our work together over the next several years,
Yeah.
and I'm really proud to be the person to represent the body of work and the number of people that have been part of this process.
Good point.
Can we do this all in one motion, I assume?
Yes, it could.
Okay. Be it resolved that the vision of the school district of Fort Atkinson read, achieving distinction in all we do. Be it further resolved that the mission of the school district of Fort Atkinson is to cultivate an inclusive, high-performing culture of growth and community. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education adopt the guiding principles and district beliefs as recommended by administration. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education adopt the following strategic goals as recommended by administration. Number one, in the goal area of high performance, all schools as well as a district will achieve a state of Wisconsin accountability rating of significantly exceeds expectations no later than the 2025-26 report card with evidence of annual growth. Number two, in the goal area of inclusive culture of growth, Our learning community will exemplify an inclusive culture of growth responsive to our learner and community needs. And number 3, in the goal area of community distinction, the district will be the preferred educational option in the region, as evidenced by annual growth in the pupil count and open enrollment.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Paul, seconded by Mrs. Reynolds, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes, and we're full steam ahead.
Thanks very much. We appreciate your confidence. I feel like we should adjourn now because we really do have work to do.
Yeah,
So
got a lot of work to do.
the 5-year clock is ticking. We've really been excited about the work that has been underway this summer, and this next set of slides, and I'll go very quickly, but they're truly just representative. I just want to give you and the community just some samples of the work that we've been doing this summer that might fall under these different goal areas. So under the area of high performance, district and school data teams met the final week of July to review and analyze the spring 2021 data from the State of Wisconsin accountability assessments, as well as various local data sources. Teams identified strength areas to build upon, as well as opportunities for the greatest growth heading into the 2021-22 school year. This work serves as the foundation for the development of individual school improvement plans that contain action steps to support the achievement of the district-wide goal, as well as the individual school improvement goals. This work will be launched with all certified staff at the first staff meeting of the school year and is the basis of our results-focused work to support the high-performance goal area of the strategic plan. Next, related to the inclusive culture of growth. The School District of Fort Atkinson is steadfast in its commitment to whole child education and keeping social-emotional learning at the forefront of our work with our learners. All certified staff will participate in a learning session prior to the start of the school year and then continue throughout the course of the school year, and those sessions led by their peers to continue to understand the impact of trauma, including the ongoing pandemic. On our learners to work together so that they can strive to provide the best possible learning environments for our students. This work is central to further establishing and advancing an inclusive culture of growth in our learning community. And again, just samples of what it is that we have planned or what it is that we have underway to support our success in these goals. And then the School District of Fort Atkinson made considerable enhancements to its summer school programming, from our core programming in June and July, to launching our first school district summer STEAM Academy in August. And we also brought back the Jumpstart classes for our youngest learners to activate their learning prior to the start of the school year this week. Our summer has truly made us distinguished as a place for learners this summer. And that would be a great example of how it is that we look to do things differently to set ourselves apart when it comes to distinguished teaching and learning to some of our neighboring schools or other schools within our community. So, of course, the board has already been supportive of these efforts, and our next steps are to define strategies and tactics for each of the goal areas, and then to launch the plan with our 1-4 team at convocation. And I made just a few notes just to sort of bring back to your mind things that you've supported even just the past few months that have allowed this work to happen and will allow it to continue in the year. You've obviously just supported a new results-driven strategic plan. You've provided staffing additions and reallocations to allow for these goals to get underway. And when you think of the staffing that we changed or added this year, it's directly student contact positions that will improve teaching and learning and support that kids and families need to be successful in school. You've encouraged us not to be paralyzed by COVID. You've asked us to continue to work on the really important mission of the district and insisting that we become a district that we know we can be, as opposed to settling for what it is that we may have been in the past. And you helped by letting us start that new school year in June. So just as a very quick example, under these more general goal areas, what we're looking to do is actually create strategies and tactics. And these are the things that may be shorter term or perhaps a little bit longer term. They may be things that we work on and then they're they're put to rest, so some new goals and strategies can come in place. But we're looking at strategies as defining long-term goals and how it is that we're planning to achieve them. And then we're looking at tactics as being the more concrete and often smaller steps over a shorter period of time to help us along that way. So this will be a new structure for us as we work administratively and with staff in our community, but we think this will allow us to pivot as needed more readily than waiting for a plan to cycle out, so that we might create a new plan and then be looking in the rearview mirror perhaps as much as we have in the past. So with that, I very much thank the board for your continued support, as well as your support of what we think is an outstanding vision and mission for our district to move forward. And I just have no doubt that the community will appreciate the results and will be excited to step behind what it is that we're working on. So thank you very much.
Thank you much, Dr. Abbott. We're all looking forward to being a district of distinction for our academics. I think that's something that you, as a school district, is pretty good to be known for, better than a gimmick, right? So we can go ahead and move forward to non-instruction, and that is January board meeting date.
Yes, the Wisconsin School Board Association Conference is at the end of the week, where we would typically meet in January. So we thought it would be nice if we could adjust the calendar now for yours, as well as our community's knowledge. So we were looking that January meeting be held on Monday, January 17th, beginning as always at 6:30 p.m.
Does that make sense to all the board members, new and old?
Yep,
We're moving, yep. You guys ready for convention?
yep.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, we can go ahead and entertain that motion then.
Be it resolved that the January board meeting be conducted on Monday, January 17th, 2022, starting at 6:30 p.m.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Nickram, as seconded by Mrs. Reynolds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we'll see you guys Monday 17th, and that's it. It was a joke. We now have the moment we've all been waiting for, the Facility Advisory Committee's next steps.
Yeah, so, as we were getting ready for this meeting, this is probably one of the bigger board meetings for me and you and the entire district moving forward, because we're talking about things not just in the present, but in the future and in the continued growth of the school district. The work that we do tonight and moving forward will truly have a lasting impact on what education looks like here in Fort Atkinson. So I am very happy to start the presentation, and I'll very quickly hand things off to recognize and celebrate the work of our Facilities Advisory Committee that has been underway for over 18 months. And so as we work together this evening, we're going to cover a couple of different areas. We're going to talk about the charter and objective of the group, the members, the process. We're going to look at options for facilities review and prioritization, as well as provide you with a recommendation from the FAC, as well as some potential next steps that you might consider. And then, of course, we'll look forward to how it is that we're going to work into the future. So the board set forth a charter and objective for a broad-based Facilities Advisory Committee. And the responsibilities, they are charged by the board with developing a master plan that will guide the investment into the district facilities to support future academic programs and create safe and vibrant learning environments. So the highlight there is long-term plans. This isn't necessarily about just the present or just the next year or two. It is, how is it that we systemically look well into the future related to some of our potential facilities needs. We also included in the charter a holistic approach to planning, that they would be planning drivers. We asked the group to be helpful in doing some decision making, and then also to help keep us on schedule, because we know that there are things that we are going to need to do related to this work moving forward. The membership of the group was broad-based and very intentional. We had residents of various age groups. We had parents, teachers, students. We had administration from the city. We had administration here from the school district. The Board of Education was included. We had local residents in various industries. We had construction, we had finance, healthcare, nonprofits, and sales. We had a resource team. We had administration. We had architects. We had construction managers, and we had an energy consultant, of which several are here this evening, and we appreciate their support as well. And then we got to work. And it seemed like quite a while ago because it was, but as we got to work, this group, after given their charter, actually elected chairs of that committee. And at that time, Corey wasn't a board member yet. So as a community member, he stepped up and said, yeah, geez, I would really like to do that. And so I'm going to turn things over to Corey now, and he's going to work through what the FAC process was over the past 18 months.
So he was full aware of what he was getting into when he decided to run.
And then he filed the election papers, yes.
Yeah. Way to go, bud. I actually didn't, I mean, I guess I did know that. I just didn't quite put it together. Good for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Abbott. Good evening, fellow board members. I'm excited to share with you today the FAC process and options that were discussed and carefully analyzed before handing down a recommendation. A little background. In September of 2019, myself, along with Nikki Liebman, co-chaired the Facilities Advisory Committee to better develop a plan that will guide the investment into district facilities to support future academic programs and create safe and vibrant learning environments. Although there is a significant amount of work that will still need to be done, I'm proud of the work that the committee produced. We're back here. As you can tell, this was no small undertaking. There were 8 FAC meetings for 2 hours long with a significant amount of community support. In total, there were 448 total hours committed by the FAC members and 208 hours committed by the resource team. If you add it up, it's 27 total days of working on this essential district project. Our first meeting was really to better understand the scope of the work, assign co-chairs, and review the body of work that was done up until that time frame. To kick off our school tours, we were able to take an eye-opening tour of Luther Elementary to better understand the needs of that particular school. It was interesting to see how our biggest elementary school functioned in the space that it does today. Luther was certainly unique, given that it houses a daycare, elementary children, and administrative offices. It is truly a multi-purpose building. During meeting 2, we were able to meet and discuss our existing conditions along with our renewable energy infrastructure. We toured the middle school and thankfully only lost a few people during the tour. We were able to tour parts of the school that I haven't been to yet. It was fascinating to see the conditions of the pool and other areas of the middle school. Personally, I was surprised to see how well the condition of the mechanics were, even though they were more than double or even triple their lifespan. On the flip side, as you can imagine, I immediately became concerned with the life still left in the mechanicals. The project was first presented to the public on May 5th, 2019 at a special board meeting. Step 1 and 2 of the master plan from PRA and CG Smith were presented. At that point, they laid out current maintenance needs along with their costs and review relevant existing documents that were critical to the overall understanding of this project. As always, all the documentation is available on the district website. And it's a long one if you want to go through that. In meeting 2, in the second meeting was review of renewable energies infrastructure. This laid out energy plan needs in 4 different categories, from urgent to 2 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, and needed in 10 plus years. As you can see, the total energy upgrade is recommended totaled nearly $37 million. This does not mean we need to rush and go ahead and do all these things. These are simply a report about the existing conditions within our 6 buildings. When documenting a return on our investment on utilities, you will see that a simple payback is 13.9 years and an estimated utility rebate of $41,401. A big thing to note here is that we have already started high school facilities maintenance list. As you remember, the board was given the approval on high school maintenance needs. You'll see the new numbers in the red box below. The urgent facilities have been going on for a few months, and some of the further maintenance needs have been chipped away at as needed. As you can tell, meeting 2 is very busy with a lot of good work done on utilities. Meeting 3 was held at the high school and was certainly much different to view our larger and most modern building within the district at 22 years old. The pure size of the building and the amount of departments made this far different than any other building we had toured. We learned about the educational spaces and better understood how educational spaces are being used now and how they were being used when the middle school was built. This helped to better comprehend why some of the infrastructure changes have been made in our buildings over the years. Our district has simply shifted learning spaces as needed. Meeting 4 was a great meeting for myself, a non-board member at this point, and FAC members to better understand School Finance 101. While we learned exciting things about bonds, mill rates, and revenue, it was good to get a great understanding of how challenging the world of school finance materializes. There was a very lively discussion of how school finance works, and many of us left with a much better understanding of school finance. We also toured Berry Elementary. It was eye-opening to see one of our oldest buildings in action. While the space is not ideal, we could certainly see the changes to the building to adapt to learning styles when it was built. The staff has done an amazing job of making a unique learning space work for what the school has needed. During meeting 5, we met at Rockwell Elementary School. We were able to discuss our preliminary prioritization of needs. We determined what was important to the group of the FAC members for maintenance, safety, security, being equitable, and learning environments, to name a few options. During the meeting, we were able to see for the first time options that would catapult this group forward into really determining the focus of the group. The school tour was also very interesting. Much like Barry, I was proud of the way we were able to make creative spaces for our students in the environment that the staff needed. There was certainly a noticeable limit on space at Rockwell, but most is being done with what they have. I do believe everybody appreciated seeing the school to better understand all aspects of what was working, from student drop-off to their safety and security needs. Unknowingly, meeting 6 at Purdy ended up being our last meeting for 14 months, but a lot was accomplished at this meeting. For the first time, we had a lot of great discussion on all great options that were presented to us. We graded all 8 options and thoroughly evaluated each option within our tables. Once again, there was a lot of time for question and answers between the members of the FAC. It was good to get so many viewpoints and understanding of what was being presented to us. It was clear we had a wide variety of opinions and thoughts on how this group should proceed. Meeting 7 started back up this past spring. COVID changed a lot of things, but the learning space and maintenance needs were not impacted by the pandemic. If anything, they were just simply a year older. The pandemic gave us time to reflect on our current environment, and it became abundantly clear we need to continue to move ahead. We were able to view maintenance, financial, education, and enrollment changes specific to the Fort Atkins School District. When determining what has not changed, we were able to review our objectives and refresh ourselves where the FAC left off. During our last meeting, we were able to evaluate all available options that were still under consideration and determine our plan for our future. Individually, we determined pros and cons of each option. It was an exciting meeting in which we were able to discuss options within our group members and determine the best option for our future, then roll up recommendations to the entire group that was present. From this point forward, all information was gathered from the recommendations since September 24th, 2019, officially wrapped up on May 25th, 2021. A lot was accomplished, and even more is ahead of this project. I'm excited to see where this lands moving forward. Now that you have a better understanding of the process involved in determining our options, I'm excited to show you the options and the district grading scale and criteria. As you can see, the options varied from maintenance only to complete modernization of all schools. There's a wide consideration of all options, and we took a deep dive into each of the options. These are all the options presented to the FAC on this slide here. It looks pretty busy, right? Of all the options we explored can be found on our website. The committee had extensive conversations around each option. As you can see, all options were thoroughly thought through to ensure we were not missing any element of our possible future. As far as our prioritization of needs, we were diligent to ensure that we understood what was important to the community. It was good to get input from the committee to ensure our goals in the district and the goals of the community were aligned. The prioritization of needs were developed was district-wide maintenance upgrades, safety and security both inside and out, learning environments, built to current model, adaptable, usable, acoustics, air quality, and lighting, equitable, special education, flexibility, grade in every school, sustainability, fiscal, enrollment, and environmental. Someone's excited already. This was our matrix that was developed in evaluating all 8 options. On the left of the slide, you can tell the criteria that was considered when making the choices. As you can see, some options checked many boxes, and others, like option number 1, didn't fare as well as aligning the goals of the committee. After grading all the options, you can tell the options that jumped out were the best options were options 3, 7, and 8 that stood out in aligning the community and the district needs. FAC recommendation put forth 3 opportunities. All of them checked many boxes that we felt were important as a committee. It was important to note that all the recommendations put forth tonight will include a safe and secure entry in all of our buildings. Option 3 was to build a new 4K through 8 Luther site and a new 4K through 8 site near the high school, while keeping the existing high school. Some pros to this was the lowest long-term maintenance cost with only 3 buildings and grounds to maintain, and all of them being newer buildings. Opportunity for empty building sites to become something of a benefit to the community, athletic facility, new park, or buildable lots. Sell as community betterment, as well as true community betterment. Potential dynamic shifts in educational delivery. More comprehensive K4 through 8 system, programming benefits, transportation savings, and busing. Some cons to option number 3 was numerous unknowns. This was a big change in our educational model in Fort Atkinson. We lose that neighborhood school and might feel a little bit more like a big city feel. We might have numerous empty buildings, unable to be phased, right? Where there's 2 new buildings. There's a significant cost to this and could be challenges in selling this change to the community. With so much new at once, potential for numerous items breaking down at the same time in the future. Possible parent concerns with dropping off a 4-year-old in the same building as a 14-year-old, which we heard, quite frequently, right? Yeah. Possible inequity if one of the 4K through 8 buildings is located near the high school and can share some of the academic and facility opportunities, whereas other location not near the high school would be unable to share in those opportunities. Option 7 was putting addition onto Berry and Rockwell, renovate at Purdy, and build a new middle school at the district office, build a new middle school and district office at the Luther site. Some pros to this that we determined was a definite need for middle school and district office. Doing anything at the existing middle school site does not improve its location. Unusual with the district building being in an elementary school and another elementary school across the street. In favor of one distinct middle school. Luther is the least historic building in the district. Savings on long-term maintenance costs with one less school building. Some cons to option number 7. Concern whether there is enough space for the new middle school building to be on the Luther site in addition to fields, parking, and traffic flow concerns. Does this position the district for the future growth? Cost is a concern even if it's on the lower end of the 3 options. One less elementary school would be a loss of a community space, gym, soccer track, etc. One less elementary school to create imbalance north versus south of town. District construction during the school day. Community may see Luther as middle school being somewhat of a step back, right? Better to have middle school near the high school. Empty buildings, space in town, and life cycle costs. More efficient to renovate elementary school or building new. Current renovation costs do not exceed 50% of new construction. Site may limit the ability for addition of new construction down the road. And last was option number 8. It included additions and renovations at all 4 elementary schools and building a new middle school. Some pros to option number 8 was 4 elementary schools provide balance in the community, much like what we have today. Updating elementary school for modernization, safety, and security. Need for new middle school. Allows for flexibility with phasing. Could build middle school more immediately and do elementary school at a later date if needed. Least amount of change, right? We have the same 6 buildings as we do today. Demolition costs to remove existing middle school building included with estimates. Middle school being located near the high school will allow for shared community use of facilities, fields, pools, gyms, among a few. 4 elementary schools provide greater flexibility in programming decisions. Some of the cons, option number 8, was ability to secure financing. Right, that was a big concern for the group, obviously. Space concerns on new building sites, finding a location near the high school or any other location along traffic flow. Do the elementary provide sufficient space for additions and new construction? Maintaining 4 buildings alleviates capacity concerns. And also a con was life expectancy considerations of the elementary school 40 or 50 years from now. A concern was having an empty middle school building. Long-term maintenance costs higher due to having 6 buildings, and no options for use for the current middle school site. Current middle school site has challenges with circulation, location and community size, and land being filled with geothermal wells. As demonstrated, there were no stones left unturned when determining pros and cons to each scenario. We exhausted each available option made available to us. Now, next steps with Dr. Abbott.
Before I go on to next steps, I realized that I neglected to actually introduce a few people. Firstly, are there people here that were part of the FAC from the community or staff? We appreciate the time and effort. You know, I think it's always difficult, and while it was a fixed-term obligation, it definitely it takes time and energy beyond the meeting to get what you need in order to be an informed part of a process like this. Also, we worked with 3 different organizations that have really helped guide this work, and it's been a real privilege to be able to work with a number of different people. With us this evening, we have representatives from C.G. Schmidt, PRA, and Upper 90 Energy. We have Dan Chanovic, Nick Kent with C.G. Schmidt, Nick Kent and Devin Kack with PRA, and Mario Mazzani with Upper 90 Energy. Thanks very much, guys, for being here, and I apologize for name issues. So, if it was graduation, I would practice. All right. So we also had some additional information, just like I was talking about with strategic plan. I mean, June was really a busy time for us. Things really started to happen quickly. As the FAC was drawing to a close, we were really starting to become aware of some additional information that would potentially help the board see what some next steps might be to build upon the recommendation that Corey just shared with us from the FAC. A couple of things. One, related to enrollment. We know as a district that we're sort of within unstable enrollment right now with birth rate, but as I shared in an earlier presentation, as well as COVID. Enrollment was sort of a little wonky last year, I think, for every school district in the world, as well as right here in Fort Atkinson. This year it will be interesting for us to see us moving forward as well. But we definitely don't see enrollment downward as a trend as much as downward as a blip. Of course, we just got done talking at length about a new strategic plan. And with that plan, the potential for supporting that type of growth and change definitely may necessitate some thoughts related to our facilities as well. We're also seeing a definite uptick in competition, as I mentioned again in strategic planning, but I think that it's important to mention again, open enrollment is not sort of the slam dunk assumption that it has been in the past, and not just for us, but for other districts as well. But we need to continue working at bringing more people in through open enrollment. Private school vouchers continues to be something that we're very aware of, and we'll look at pushing $1 million probably towards private school vouchers in the upcoming year. And then we also have a competitor that is building a new facility. They broke ground this summer, which is definitely something that we need to keep an eye on as well as we consider our facilities and offerings from a physical plant point of view to support our programming for our children. And then also, there's been a fair amount of development within the city So housing starts. One of the things that, if you've been watching the paper, you've been made aware of is we have two separate subdivisions that are being annexed in to the west side of the city, just beyond the high school over on Banker Road. And the city has been working very quickly to get those subdivisions in a place where we could have housing starts sooner than later. But that's something that's very exciting to us, given that housing has been a significant limiting factor for people coming to Fort Atkinson or choosing to stay in Fort Atkinson as well. As well as with the change I was just describing, we have the ability to be part of determining future transportation patterns. What does ingress and egress look like from our existing property? What is it that that side of town could look like or support if we were to look at a project over there as well? And then the other thing that we learned is that a couple of the tax incremental districts or TIF districts would be expiring in the next few years, which would have a significant impact positively on the property tax or the property owner's tax rate, which would really potentially be a benefit for us in looking at a future project as well. And there's also been a number of leadership changes in key positions throughout our community as well, both in private industry as well as in the public sector. And there's definitely a spirit of what's next in our business community, in our city, as well as I think we know within our school district as well. So our recommended plan, the long-term plan, and I think one of the things that I would like to say numerous times is long-term plan, because this isn't an all at once. Let's take care of all of these needs in one fell swoop. But we are recommending modernization of the elementary schools as well as a new grades 6 through 8 middle school. That recommendation does tick all of the proverbial boxes. In that process that Corey mentioned, it was elaborate, it was rigorous, and it involved an awful lot of discussion, and it was really good discussion and really good information that we gleaned from all of those stakeholders that were with us. But this recommended plan, again, updating or modernizing the elementary schools along with the new 6-8 middle school, gets us what we need to step into the future. One of the things that we like about this particular recommendation is that it allows for us to phase this plan. So when I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, we're not looking to do this all at once, nor can we do this all at once. But this plan does allow us to take things one piece at a time as we look at the long-term facilities needs of the school district. So currently, we're in phase 1. And really, when we started the FAC process, we knew there were potential energy savings and maintenance needs at the high school. And it was part of, do we have one of those enormous books somewhere? So the book, all right, it's like inches thick. But we knew that we were going to have specific needs at the high school. What we didn't know is that with some creativity and with the support of the board, we would actually be able to embark on that phase 1 set of projects at the high school without additional taxpayer money. And that project, under the direction of C.G. Schmidt, has been in process this summer. And we're very excited to say that it's on time, it's on budget, and people are really noticing the difference in our new school that's actually 26 years old. So phase 1, we knocked a lot of needs out from the high school, as I just described, and that's like literally going on as I speak. So what we would suggest as a phase 2, and where we would like to focus our attention now or in the immediate future, is the construction of a new middle school, grades 6, 7, and 8, as well as those secure entries at the high school as well as at the 4 elementary schools, as well as taking care of all of the urgent maintenance needs at the elementary schools. We know that we are using our elementary schools, and that money used for maintenance will be well spent to keep those facilities up and running and healthy, safe environments for our kids. The secure entries are not nice to have items, they are need to have items. In this phasing, the high school, and again, all four of the elementary schools would see those secure entrances, and then obviously the new middle school would be designed such that that would be part of the design scheme. And then we're looking at future phases, and again, this is long-term. When we know more about enrollment, we know more about our community needs, we know more about viability of facilities, we would like some time to look at grade configurations and actual programming at the elementary level. Phasing this as I'm describing it allows that to happen in a more natural, more informed manner. So again, those elementary schools would see secure entrances as part of phase 2, but then what we do next at the elementary level would be discussion in the future. So the recommended plan, again, just in review, phase 1 at the high school is ongoing. Those are energy saving projects as well as the maintenance projects. And then phase 2, the high school would see those secure entrances. At the elementary school level, they would see secure entrances as well as the urgent maintenance needs. That could be things related to safety, security, accessibility, building envelope, that's the masonry, coping, rusting, door frames, door leaks, and those types of things. And those would be investments in those buildings that are worth making, knowing that we're going to be continuing to use them into the future. And then we're looking at the middle school with a potential new middle school on the high school site. And there were two things that we wanted to make clear to the public because I think they're the first questions that people would ask after the idea of building a new middle school in town is where is it and what happens to the old facility. We're looking, and this is a draft. You see the word draft there? It's a draft. This is not real, but it's pretty fun to look at. We're looking at a standalone middle school on the high school site, which I know the board is aware. I'm not sure all of the community is aware that we own the adjacent property along MATC. So we have it there marked in red, but that's actually district-owned property as well. The subdivisions that I mentioned, of course, are beyond this picture, and then just below the O and N, there's a cluster of homes there that is actually bought by another developer that we understand will be developed into additional housing there as well. So what we're looking at is a potential new middle school on the high school property. And the existing middle school, we would raise that building and then restore that property to a natural state and maintain it for the community in order to determine use at a future date. There's a variety of different things that this or future boards could decide to do with that property, and that decision-making does not need to be part of this right now. But the building would need to come down for a variety of reasons. That process is already involved in some of the pricing that we have through this process. And again, we would return that property to a natural state so that neighborhood would remain intact and not have any worries related to a deteriorating empty building or unsafe facilities in their neighborhood as well. So I think I've covered all of these different options pretty significantly. Part of what we're asking the board this evening is to give us the go-ahead to start looking into phase 2. We would really like to start looking into community partnerships. When you start thinking about the location of that 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade building, it puts us in the neighborhood of some other community entities that may be really great partnerships for us moving forward. We're definitely looking at a campus approach. How is it that the middle school could potentially share some facilities with the high school? How is it that we could potentially do some different things with staffing, or we could do some different things with programming? Are there some things that we could do while we're in construction we know that we would need to to get into some of the athletic facilities in order to make it accessible and usable for 6th, 7th, and 8th, as well as the 9th through 12th graders. So there's a lot of different things that the community would start weighing in on over the course of the next several months to determine what might be possible as part of this project, or are there extensions where other entities might want to work with us collaboratively to enhance this project as well. So the district-wide solution in phase 2, we're looking at approximately $49 to $59 million. And again, the discussion, and there's an elaborate communication plan that already exists over the course of the next many, many months, would be to engage the community in what is it they would like to see, what is it that they would prioritize, what is it that as we're working on building a new middle school, we can integrate or we can develop in that campus approach, with the idea that when a family drops their student off in 6th grade, they may well pick them up again when they graduate. I think it's an exciting opportunity for our community. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have at this time. There's certainly no action that the board would take this evening, but we'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any thoughts that you might have. And then what we're really looking for from you this evening is simply a charge, and that is to continue to explore phase 2 and invest our time and energy in the efforts of our other cooperating entities to do the same, and then come back to you on a regular basis with updates and continuing to zero in on what this path might be for us to be successful in adding this to our community.
This is actually for Mr. Nickram. Did we find the missing people that we lost?
No, they're still missing a little bit,
Okay.
so they might be in one of the stairwells.
We have a legal team.
Having worked there for 20 odd years, that was not an uncommon occurrence, I think, right?
I've been lost
I'm
before.
assured a new middle school would have fewer stairwells and narrow hallways, so.
And maybe things would be labeled, you
Yeah.
know, telling us. Okay. I did not have any questions, but, you know, I'm kept abreast pretty regularly by both you and Mr. Nickram and Mr. Paul. Does anyone else from the board have any questions, comments, or concerns? There's a lot of info.
Just one question. I'm looking at the aerial view here, and if memory serves me correct, apparently I've not been on the north side of town for a while, but are there not solar panels? Is that within that boundary here? Is it within the MATC or?
Yeah, so actually the red line, and believe me, as we work into this, we'll be getting you very detailed everything,
Okay.
but that red line actually accommodates for the solar array. The white dot there is the base of the wind turbine that had been on that site, and the solar array is in that area of the property. You'll also, clearly not in this depiction, MATC is adding some vocational training areas to the back of their building as well. The district has owned this plot of land for many, many, many years, and our digital sign is out there just off of the main road as well.
Thank you for the clarification.
I guess I'd just like to add, it was an interesting 8 meetings, I guess, and I was surprised to the level of detail that the group went into, especially when we started to get into the nitty-gritty of the options. I think one of the things that was great about the experience was that the people that were there represented a large group of different people in the community, and a lot of, I guess, concerns and questions that I don't think I would have ever thought of
Right.
came out of that, which was really
Exactly.
great. And the one thing that I think we all agreed on was that we want to see new facilities and nice facilities and improvements, but everybody in that committee was concerned about how we could do it and how we could pay for it, because it wasn't going to do us any good to have big plans and not finance them.
Absolutely.
So, I don't think this is the perfect solution. I'd like to have new HVAC in this building tomorrow and stuff like that, but the one thing I think it does is it's the most feasible plan because of the phasing. I think that's very important for the community to understand that a lot of the other plans would require a significant cost all at once, and I don't think it would be feasible. And I think that kind of killed a lot of those plans along with some other concerns. So the ability to do the phased approach that you described is almost, it's like almost the whole thing to me, that it is realistic if we go about it in the right direction. So I'm pretty excited about where this is going to head from here.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think the district has an impeccable reputation of being mindful of the taxpayer, and as we've gone to operational referendum out of necessity, and as we have, I mean, we've been very, very deliberate and very conscious of how have spent money and how it is that we've planned for things. I think the current phase 1 underway at the high school now is a perfect example of doing parts of this work with no additional taxpayer funds, but actually working ahead of schedule, I guess, so to speak, on those needs. The other thing that's exciting about this is, if you think back to earlier in my comments, you know, with the advent of these subdivisions being built, our construction would actually be able to be planned in conjunction with how those are constructed and put together. And as roads go in, or as things are planned on the city side, that can be part of our process on our own building project potentially as well, which is an efficiency not just of time, but potentially of funds as well. The other thing that I would just say is, I think it's fair to say there is a huge interest in the city to think about what's next in growing a strong Fort Atkinson for the future. And they are incredibly interested and incredibly supportive of working with the school district, knowing that strong schools build a strong city and vice versa. And we're very excited about the commitment of the city and other organizations in helping us plan to continue to not just be strong, but to excel into the future as well.
I think it's super exciting. I mean, I really do. It's super exciting. Of course, everybody's always, you know, happy and excited to talk about, you know, getting a new school and upgrading and updating and all of that kind of thing. But I'm glad that you touched on the money aspect of it. We've done phase 1 without asking for any more. We've been able to do that. And I think that speaks how a severe high, you know, to us, because we've been able to do phase 1 already. And, you know, and I think it would be great if we could get more of the community to realize that these buildings are really old. I mean, you hear, you know, you have heard on the news that, you know, some school buildings, all of a sudden things start collapsing on them and bricks are falling and those type of things. And I mean, that is a possibility with our buildings just because they are old. But with this, keeping that old but also creating new is an amazing thing, and I'm super excited.
Well, and I think I'm following your line of thinking. I guess I just would like to say, I think one of the things maybe some districts do that Fort Atkinson has very proudly never done is delayed maintenance or not done what they need to do to keep our buildings operating clean and in a position for great teaching and learning. And that's certainly not happened here either. We have not stepped back in anticipation of developing a greater need for the potential of a change in facilities. So, you know, I think the group definitely came to terms with the condition of the existing middle school, as well as what the limitations are of any type of true update or renovation with that existing building, getting to some of the things that I think you're talking about, which is at some point there's an inevitability, just given age and structure, that things would need to be done.
Yeah. Yes.
Great presentation. Thank you very much, Dr.
So are
Abbott.
we charged to do that?
Yes, keep
All right.
forward, keep moving on. Like, I'm not hearing any protestations from the board.
Great.
Um,
Well, thanks again to the FAC. Thanks again to all
Absolutely.
of our folks here, and there's another team behind them as well. We're anxious to continue our work with them. This is a huge product of a broad-based, community-based group supporting the work of the board, which is certainly something that we applaud and appreciate. So thank you.
All right, now we're moving forward to WASB CISA reports, legislative advocacy. I'm sure everybody has seen, or at least all the board members have seen the emails that are coming through from WASB about changes to, and proposed changes to, well, an array of things. Is there anything in particular that anyone would like to bring up other than convention, which has been brought up already? All right, hearing none, we can go ahead and move forward to items for future board meetings, Dr. Abbott.
Well, eventually we'll be talking about strategic plan, I think, as well as
Oh.
the potential for FAC work moving forward.
Did I skip that?
No, you didn't. I just, I'm just saying, like, add that to the list of future agenda items.
Yes, yes.
Eventually we'll be hearing about advanced placement exam results. Of course, we'll be talking about our school opening plan on Monday evening in this room at 6:30 p.m. And then, of course, we'll be following up at subsequent meetings, I'm sure, as well. We'll be getting an update on the high school projects that we've been talking about this evening. Recognition of the 2020 Best Communities in Music Education Award, as well as a report on a very successful summer school run, academic and career plan approval, a report from the nutrition department, and I'm guessing there will be other items as well.
You betcha. All right. Folks, we are now looking down the hallway of everyone's favorite topic, adjournment. So unless anyone else has anything they'd like to say or bring up related to the future board meeting items, then we can go ahead and entertain the motion to adjourn.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education adjourn.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Nickram, a second by Mrs. Bukta. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And we are out of here at 6:46 p.m. Thank you very much for coming, everybody.
Annual meeting at 8 o'clock in this very room.
Annual meeting at 8 o'clock.
Reserve your space now.
Reserve, yeah. Standing room only at this point.